I never expected to catch them in the act. My own daughter, Sophia, the girl I had raised with all my heart, rifling through my personal files as if she had a right to everything in my house. And even worse, she had no idea I was watching. The security camera I had recently repaired was working perfectly, recording every move. It had all started a few days ago when I realized my surveillance system had been down for weeks. Living alone at 63, I felt exposed, especially with Sophia and her husband Liam insisting on moving in to help me. I hadn't told them I'd scheduled a repair, too used to them running my life to even think about it. But this oversight became my saving grace. That morning, after Liam supposedly left for a meeting and Sophia went to run errands, I checked the live feed on my phone. The images were sharp and clear, showing every corner of the living room. And there they were. Papers scattered across the coffee table, files I had kept locked for years. Liam held my property documents, flipping through them with practiced ease, while Sophia examined each page, whispering instructions like a seasoned conspirator. "You think she keeps the originals here?" Sophia murmured. Liam didn't look up. "She won't notice if we swap these with copies," he said almost casually. A cold wave of disbelief hit me. They were planning to take everything I had built, and they had the nerve to do it under my roof, but I forced myself to stay calm. If they realized I was watching, all evidence could vanish before I had a chance to act. I needed proof, undeniable proof, and fast. Today would mark the start of a careful game. I would turn the tables on the people I once trusted most. As they whispered and moved with the precision of thieves, I felt a quiet surge of determination. They didn't know it yet, but I had seen enough. And the hunt for justice had begun. The shock of what I saw that morning lingered for hours. My heart still raced as I closed the app and leaned back in my chair, trying to think clearly. Sophia and Liam had crossed a line I never imagined they would. For decades, I had poured everything into raising her, teaching her right from wrong, supporting her through school, loving her unconditionally. And now, at 63, I was staring at betrayal in its rawest form. I couldn't let panic take control. I had to act strategically. I spent the morning going through my home office, checking which files and documents had been left unprotected and which were most vulnerable. I made a mental list: property deeds, financial statements, my will, and my personal records. Everything had to be secured immediately, but I also needed proof of their intentions. Seeing them in action had been enough to confirm my suspicions, but I needed undeniable evidence to protect myself. I began researching covert ways to gather evidence: hidden cameras, discreet microphones, even methods of recording conversations without breaking any laws. I was determined to stay a step ahead, and I realized I couldn't rely on anyone but myself. For the first time in years, I felt a mix of fear and empowerment, a drive to reclaim my home and my peace of mind. By afternoon, I had contacted a trusted technician I had used years ago. I explained the situation in vague terms, making sure to avoid raising suspicion in case Sophia or Liam had a way to monitor my calls. Within hours, he arrived and discreetly installed high-quality cameras in the living room and dining area, and even a miniature microphone that I could wear under my blouse. Every word they spoke and every move they made would now be recorded without their knowledge. As the technician left, I sat in my favorite armchair, staring at the ceiling. I had been careful, but the reality remained. These were my daughter and son-in-law. People were supposed to trust family, and now I had to outsmart them to survive. I reviewed my plan. Tomorrow I would act as if nothing had happened, pretending to be the same trusting mother, while secretly monitoring every interaction. It was late morning when my phone buzzed. I paused for a moment and smiled softly at the camera feed. I could see the dining table empty for now, but I knew Sophia and Liam would return soon. I had to be ready. Before they came back, I wanted to take a moment to reach out to all of you watching this story. If you're enjoying it, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue sharing these real-life experiences. I'm excited to read your thoughts and connect with you as we go through this journey together. By mid-afternoon, Sophia returned, carrying a bag of groceries, and Liam followed shortly after, claiming he had finished his meeting. I greeted them with a calm smile, concealing the storm brewing inside me. They noticed nothing. That, I realized, would be my greatest advantage. I made small talk, asking about their day, all while my hidden camera captured their every move and word. As we moved into the living room, I placed a tray of tea on the table, sitting down gracefully, keeping my eyes on them without seeming obvious. Every glance, every subtle gesture would be recorded. I noticed the way they carefully avoided certain files. Probably aware of my vigilance, it only confirmed their guilt. Later, when they left to run errands again, I reviewed the footage from the camera. Every conversation, every whispered plan was there. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of knowing I finally had the leverage I needed. This was the beginning of reclaiming my life. And now, more than ever, I understood that outsmarting those you love, or thought you could trust, requires patience, strategy, and nerves of steel. I had never felt such a deep sense of betrayal. Sophia, my only daughter, and her husband Liam, the people I had trusted with my heart and home, were quietly scheming behind my back. That morning, after pretending to be absorbed in my morning tea, I watched them again on the hidden cameras. They moved with that unnerving confidence, rifling through papers, whispering to each other as if the house belonged to them. They didn't know I was watching. They didn't know the hidden microphone I had discreetly clipped under my blouse during breakfast would capture every word. My heart was racing, but my mind was sharper than ever. I reminded myself, I was 63, but I was far from helpless. My years of independence had trained me for this, years of managing my household, my finances, and my life without ever relying on anyone else. Sophia laughed lightly as Liam pointed to a folder. "We need the will updated before she changes her mind," he said, a cruel excitement in his voice. "She's stubborn, but she won't resist forever." My blood ran cold. They were planning to steal my home, my legacy, everything I had worked for, and all in the guise of family care. I kept my calm. I moved to the kitchen to make tea, but was actually speaking into the microphone to ensure everything was recorded. My plan was simple: collect irrefutable evidence, protect myself legally, and confront them only when I had full control. Later that morning, I called my trusted private detective, a woman recommended by Dr. Hamilton, my longtime physician. "We need cameras, microphones, anything to capture them in the act, without them knowing," I said. Her voice was steady, reassuring. "Mrs. Harper, we can set up everything, legally. As long as it's on your property, with reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, it's permitted. You'll have proof they can't dispute." While we arranged the setup, I continued observing Sophia and Liam. Their strategy was clear. They were testing me, gauging how far I could be manipulated. They asked me repeatedly about routine paperwork, pretending concern for my health and memory. Each question was a trap. If I admitted confusion, they'd claim mental decline. If I resisted, they'd say I was being uncooperative. It was exhausting, but I had rehearsed patience for weeks. I played the part of the compliant mother, pretending to consider their suggestions while quietly documenting every move, every word. My hands held the pen with fake hesitation, while the hidden mic recorded every whispered plan to forge my signature, to sell my house, to control my life. At that moment, I realized that sometimes the people you love most can be your greatest threat. Sophia and Liam were relentless in their manipulation, and I was determined to turn the tables. They had no idea the hunter was already the hunted. Before the afternoon confrontation, I paused, looked at the camera lens, and spoke softly. To everyone watching, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps me share these life stories, and it reminds us all that vigilance and courage can save us in the darkest moments. The rest of the day passed in tense quiet, with me pretending to nap while the detective and technician installed tiny cameras in the living and dining rooms. By evening, I had every angle covered. Every whisper, every plan, every expression of greed would be recorded, leaving no room for denials. As I sat in my favorite armchair, I reflected on the strange irony. The people I raised with love were now scheming against me, but they underestimated one thing. I had spent 63 years preparing for life's battles, and no betrayal, no matter how close to home, could break my resolve. The night fell with an eerie calm. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. Sophia and Liam didn't know it yet, but their plan was about to unravel, piece by piece, captured on cameras they could never imagine, exposed by the very person they thought they could control. The next morning I woke with a clear purpose. At 63, I had learned that age didn't equal vulnerability, and my resolve was stronger than ever. Sophia and Liam were still asleep, unaware that the house was now a web of invisible surveillance. Every word, every gesture, every plan they made would soon be captured. I called Dr. Hamilton first. "Doctor, it's urgent," I said. "I need to ensure there's a record of my mental faculties. My daughter and son-in-law are plotting against me. I need you to verify that I am in full control of my decisions." Dr. Hamilton paused. "Mrs. Harper, that's serious. Have you seen evidence?" "Yes," I replied firmly. "I have enough to warrant precaution, but I need your professional confirmation before I take any further steps." By mid-morning, she arrived with a nurse, and we began a thorough assessment. Memory tests, cognitive exercises, even some puzzles she said could reveal executive function. I passed every test flawlessly. She looked at me with admiration. "Mrs. Harper, there is no sign of cognitive decline. You are completely capable of managing your affairs." Her words were balm to my soul. I was not imagining anything. My instincts had been correct all along. While the doctor prepared the official report, I reached out to my lawyer, Ms. Randall. I briefed her quickly. "Sophia and Liam are attempting to manipulate me into signing over my property. I have evidence in progress, but I need immediate legal backing to prevent them from acting further." Ms. Randall's voice was firm. "We'll draft an injunction to prevent any transfer of property and set up a plan to use your recordings legally. You have to maintain the appearance of compliance until we have everything documented." The afternoon arrived with the usual tension. Sophia and Liam approached me with false warmth, convinced that their routine of manipulation was still unnoticed. "Mum, just review these papers," Liam said with a practiced smile. "Nothing unusual, just regular housekeeping." I smiled back, inwardly savouring their arrogance. Every step they took, every word they whispered, was being recorded. My hidden microphones captured their every plan, and the cameras watched their expressions of greed and anticipation. I maintained the pretense of confusion, just enough to keep them talking. "I want to understand everything before I sign," I said. "I need clarity." "I don't want mistakes," Liam explained a clause in the will as if it were harmless. "This ensures we can manage things efficiently if, something happens." "And what if I never want you to manage things?" I asked innocently. "What if I want to remain in control?" Their faces tensed. That hesitation, that slip, was gold for the recordings. Every instinct, every plan, every admission was being documented in high definition. By late afternoon, Dr. Hamilton handed me the official report. "This document confirms your mental faculties are intact. You can make independent legal decisions, Mrs. Harper." I nodded, carefully placing it in my purse. With the lawyer on standby and the detective ready to act, I felt the balance of power shifting. Sophia and Liam had no idea that the tide was turning. The hunter had become the hunted, and soon every lie, every attempt at manipulation, every threat would be exposed and addressed by the law. That night, as they whispered their plans in the supposed safety of my home, I felt a quiet confidence. With the medical report, the lawyer's guidance, and the invisible cameras documenting every word, I knew the moment of confrontation and justice was coming, and this time they would have no escape. The morning light filtered through the curtains, painting the living room in pale gold. Sophia and Liam moved about as if nothing had changed, their confidence still inflated by the belief that I was oblivious. But behind my calm exterior, every detail was being tracked. Every gesture recorded. I poured a cup of tea and settled into the armchair, pretending to review some letters while my hidden microphone captured their conversation. Liam cleared his throat, attempting to sound casual. "Mum, we should finalize those documents today. It'll be easier if we go through everything together." Sophia nodded eagerly, flipping through the folder. "Yes, Mom, just to make sure you understand each page." "You wouldn't want to miss anything important," I responded with gentle agreement, careful to show the patience and slight confusion they expected. "Of course, I just want to be sure I know what I'm signing." Their hands moved over the papers, highlighting clauses, making subtle suggestions, all while I kept my eyes on the hidden cameras. I could almost hear their internal calculations, the way greed and desperation tangled in their minds. Liam leaned closer, lowering his voice as if the documents weren't enough. "You understand, Mom? If you don't sign, it could complicate matters. For everyone," Sophia added, her tone syrupy. "We just want what's best for the family. You know that, don't you?" I smiled faintly, masking the thrill of knowing that every word, every admission was being captured in real time. "Of course," I replied softly, keeping the calm that made them underestimate me. They didn't notice that the simple act of explaining their intentions in front of the camera was sealing their fate. The clauses about property, the subtle hints of forged powers of attorney, the casual mentions of controlling my finances. All of it was being documented, unfiltered, and undeniable. At one point, Liam glanced toward the kitchen, whispering to Sophia, "Make sure she doesn't suspect anything before we mention the medical certificate." "That's the key," Sophia nodded. "We need to make her appear unstable to anyone who might question us." I leaned slightly back in my chair, pretending to adjust a cushion. "Medical certificate? What do you mean?" I asked innocently. Their eyes widened for a split second. I continued speaking as if I were merely curious about an irrelevant detail. "I thought I was in good health. Isn't that what the doctor confirmed?" Liam faltered, then composed himself. "Well, just a precaution, Mom. Nothing to worry about." Sophia tried to steer the conversation back to the documents, but I had already memorized every nuance. Their confidence was cracking, just enough to ensure their words were genuine. Their intentions, undeniable. By late afternoon, the session ended with them feeling satisfied, believing I had no real evidence. I remained calm as they left the room, packing their papers with exaggerated care. I waited a few moments, ensuring every hidden camera and microphone had captured everything, then called Detective Simmons to confirm the recordings were secure. "We have it all," I whispered. "Every plan, every clause, every admission. They won't know what hit them." I placed the documents and the recorder carefully in a locked drawer, feeling the weight of the victory already forming in my chest. At 63, I had outsmarted the people who had once made me feel powerless. This was no longer a battle of emotions. It was a strategic takedown, and every move was in my favor. That night, as I sat alone in my living room, I realized that the trap was set. Sophia and Liam had walked straight into it, revealing everything in their greed and arrogance. Tomorrow their confidence would meet the reality they never expected, and I would be ready. The next morning the house was quiet, deceptively peaceful. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the warmth settle in my chest as I watched Sophia and Liam move about with the same false confidence. They still believed I had no clue about their true intentions, and that overconfidence would be their undoing. As planned, I called Detective Simmons to confirm everything was ready. "The cameras are live, and the audio is clear," he assured me. "Once they start talking about the documents, every word will be recorded. This will be ironclad evidence." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. At 2 p.m., Liam and Sophia suggested we sit at the dining table to review the paperwork again. I agreed, maintaining the careful balance of cooperation and apparent naivety that had worked so far. As we sat, I subtly adjusted the hidden microphone in my blouse, making sure every gesture, every whisper, every sly glance would be captured. I opened the folder, pretending to scan through the first page. "Mom, let's start with the power of attorney," Liam said, his voice overly patient. "It's just to ensure someone can act on your behalf if anything were to happen." I tilted my head, feigning confusion. "Anything? What do you mean by anything?" Sophia leaned closer, placing her hand on the table, trying to sound reassuring. "Well, you know, if you were sick or if your memory started to fade, we just need to be prepared." I let the words sink in, then calmly asked, "Prepared? To take over my life without my consent?" My voice was soft, but there was an edge they could not disguise. Liam's hand trembled slightly. "Mum, that's not what this is about. We just want to help." Sophia's eyes darted toward the window, then back at me. "Yes, Mom, only to help." You know that I smiled faintly, the patience in my expression hiding the triumph I felt inside. "Help By trying to steal my home, forge documents, and make me appear incompetent? Their composure faltered. Liam opened his mouth to speak, but Sophia's hand shot up, as if to stop him. Mum, that's not true. You're imagining things. I shook my head slowly. Am I imagining the $500,000 you mentioned for selling my house? Or Albert, the lawyer you plan to use to forge my signature? Sophia froze and Liam's face drained of colour. The trap was working. Every detail I had recorded before, every whisper, every plan was now about to be confirmed. I discreetly tapped my microphone to ensure it was still recording, then said softly, "Do you want to continue, or should we let the authorities hear this discussion firsthand?" Before either of them could react, the doorbell rang. Detective Simmons, 2 uniformed officers, and my lawyer entered the house calmly but firmly. "Good afternoon," the detective said. "Sophia Ramirez and Liam Carter, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted document forgery, and financial elder abuse." Shock froze their faces. Liam's jaw dropped, and Sophia staggered back as if trying to escape the inevitable. I calmly reached down and retrieved the microphone I had worn throughout the entire conversation. "Every word you just confessed has been recorded," I said, holding it on the table where they could see it, "including your plans to forge my signature, sell my property, and manipulate my medical records." The lawyer collected the documents, and the detective explained the charges in detail. "With the recordings and the medical report confirming Mrs. Carter is fully competent, this case will proceed with criminal charges." Sophia tried one last desperate protest. "This is illegal! You recorded us without consent." Detective Simmons shook his head calmly. "No, you committed crimes on this property. When there is reasonable suspicion of illegal activity, recordings are admissible. You confessed voluntarily." Liam's fury turned into panic as the handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "You'll regret this, Mom. You'll destroy the family." I met his gaze steadily. "You destroyed the family the moment you decided my life was worth nothing but dollars." As they were led out, I realized it was finally over. The trap had worked perfectly, and the house, my life, was safe. The house was finally silent, the kind of quiet that didn't weigh on your chest, but instead filled it with relief. After months of fear, manipulation, and betrayal, Sophia and Liam were gone, led away by the authorities to face the consequences of their actions. I walked through the rooms slowly, each step a reclaiming of my space, my life, and my dignity. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one that had seen so many of my triumphs and small joys over the years. Memories of Marcus as a little boy, running around the yard asking questions, seeking comfort, all of it came rushing back. And now here I was, not just a mother, but a survivor, a woman who had outwitted those who sought to destroy her. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, private detective updates, and reassurance from Dr. Rodriguez, whose medical report had been a key piece of evidence proving I was of sound mind. The lawyer explained the plea deal Sophia and Liam had accepted. They renounced all claims to my property, agreed to stay at a permanent distance, and were enrolled in rehabilitation programs for family abuse. In exchange, they served 18 months instead of the decade or more they could have faced. I thought about how easy it could have been to be too soft, to let maternal love blind me, to give them another chance. But I had learned a harsh truth. Love is not supposed to come at the cost of your safety, your freedom, or your peace of mind. Protecting yourself does not make you cruel. Sometimes, it is the only way to survive. Life slowly returned to a rhythm that felt right. I reconnected with old friends, joined a local book club, and even started spending afternoons volunteering at the community centre. I discovered joy in the small things, brewing the perfect cup of tea, listening to jazz while watching the sunset from my balcony, and tending to the tiny garden I had always loved. I also found a new kind of family, chosen for their kindness, loyalty, and honesty. They came by regularly, sharing meals, laughter, and stories. No manipulation, no hidden agendas, just companionship and genuine care. It was in this chosen family that I found the peace I had been seeking all along, the warmth of connections built on respect rather than obligation or blood. Some nights, when the house was especially quiet, I allowed myself to reflect on the ordeal I had endured. The fear, the betrayal, the sleepless nights. They all seemed distant now, shadows compared to the strength I had discovered within myself. The woman who emerged from those months of tension and danger was not the same as the woman who had first noticed the oddities in her own home. She was stronger, wiser, and infinitely freer. I had learned an invaluable lesson. Sometimes, to save yourself, you must be willing to lose the ones you thought you loved the most. And in letting go of them, I had reclaimed everything I had thought I might lose: my home, my peace, and my dignity. Now, when I sit in my living room, surrounded by sunlight and laughter from my chosen family, I feel a profound sense of gratitude. Life has its trials, its betrayals, and its heartbreaks, but it also has moments of triumph, resilience, and rediscovered joy. I am living proof that even in the darkest moments, strength and clarity can prevail. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.